And today, after much reflection and contemplation, I've decided to give my 2 cents on the God topic. Now, we learned decades ago. We learned from Dr. Ishaka Musa Barashango many years ago that we shouldn't waste our time debating belief, because it could have happened or it couldn't have happened. It could be or it couldn't be. There's no way to prove either way. But the reason I want to jump into the debate is because while we can't prove whether God does or does not exist, we can prove that we are in a hell of a state, in a hell of a condition. So really what I want to do is discourage people from looking or participating in such a futile debate. There's no way you can prove whether God does or does not exist. There's no way you can prove 100% and be 100% sure what happened 2 million years ago. You can guess, but many times your guesses would be wrong, since you weren't here 2 million years ago. You can look at the evidence that you have available to you. And many times, as scientists, and the black man and black woman, we are scientists in that we observe nature. We observe life. We observe the universe. And after much observation, we come to an educated conclusion, a logical conclusion. That mystery, invisible, floating on a cloud God. Let's not talk about that one. We all know that we all, even if we say we are atheists or we don't believe in God, we all know that we all have a God. We all have a belief. Because even in disbelieving, in believing, in the disbelief. So you always have some type of belief. Okay? You always have some type of worship. You say, I don't worship, I don't go to the temple, I don't go to the church, I don't go to the mosque, I don't go to the synagogue, I don't go to a building to worship. But we all worship something. Some of us worship our parents. Some of us worship our children. Some of us worship our spouse. Some of us worship, in our ignorance, alcohol. Some, in our ignorance, drugs. Some worship taste. Yeah, we worship the senses. We worship sex. We worship all types of things. We got all kinds of gods. So somebody comes along and says something is a sex god, we say, oh, that's ridiculous. They say, what is it in Hinduism? Is it Shiva? It's a sex god. Was it Venus in one of those other cultures? The Greek culture, I'm not sure. Was it a sex god in Greek culture? In Norse culture? Did they have a sex god as well? And we say, man, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. Okay. That may be stupid, but your God is certainly, your sex god, that is certainly that man has been sexing you up. Ladies and men, fellas, your God is certainly that lady that just put it on you to make you say, you know what, I'm a lady. As much as you may say, I love her for her mind, she's considerate, that's some good stuff. That's all icing on the cake. But if If she didn't sex you right, in this culture in which you're having sex before you get married, if she didn't put that sex on you the way they wanted it to be put on you, more likely than not, you would not have wanted to marry that woman. You have a sex god. You're just not saying that it's a sex god. We all believe in a god. Whether we use the term, as I don't like to, use the term God or not. Your car can be your God. You worship your car. You do all there is to protect it and pay honor to it. You keep it clean. You spend your resources on your car. Because your car is your God. We all have a God. Now, if the concept, if the argument or the debate is whether it's this universal being that exists, you can't even completely prove that this universal being doesn't exist. Because you're so individualistic in your basic thinking, when you think of this universal being, you are thinking of, oh, it has to be a man or a woman, 2 legs, 2 arms, head, a brain. But of course, when you think of it like that, it's totally ridiculous. But when you think of it like the earth itself is an organism, well, then you can think a little differently now. Okay, well, the earth is made up of a lot of different elements. It's got a lot of different features. But God can exist. Does it exist? I'm not foolish enough to tell you that God, the type of God, the universal God, being, does or doesn't exist. But scientifically, we can look at just the earth or the universe itself and say, that has to be God. All things are interconnected. You are not an island, they say. I say, it's not just that you are not an island, it's that you can't be an island. Because the island is connected to the mainland. You just think it's not connected until you go see the connection on the seafloor. And you say, man, Africa is physically connected to Spain, to Greece. But you can't see the connection because there's water there. But that doesn't mean that there's no connection. There's no separation. God is everything. And everything is God. So, people say, well, God never spoke to more than one person at a time. So people say it's because God is in your own mind. I beg to differ. God does speak to multiple people at the same time. The problem is, you're listening to God in Arabic. You're listening and waiting for God to speak to you in Arabic, in Hebrew, in English, in French or something, in Swahili. Even in China, you're trying to hear God in Mandarin. Or Cantonese. The Cantonese language. God is not interested in your little language that you just made up. You say, we're going to make this up. This language has been around for 2,000 years. Well, how long has God been around? Huh? So, if you look at evolution, you say, it doesn't make sense. The God thing doesn't make sense because all things evolved. Well, I can say the same thing about evolution. And really, I'm just playing what they call devil's advocate. Because I can't prove or disprove either one. Surely there's something that looks like evolution. So people are debating creation or evolution. They say believing in a spook God. That's uneducated. That's unsophisticated. It's an unsophisticated way of thinking. But if you look at evolution, evolution evolves. In evolution, everything evolves from something into something else. Correct? So if you go all the way back to the beginning, what did that first thing evolve from? If evolution is the answer. I encourage our people to think and not regurgitate information. Because we're regurgitating information from people that are able to articulate well, but they don't know what the hell they're saying. They just know how to convince you. That's the person that wins the debate. Somebody that convinces you articulately in the best articulate way, the most creative way. They can convince you with some bullshit. They say the best diet is an all-protein diet. And they'll have a hell of an argument. And even though you may know deep down in your heart that that can't be right, if you can't articulate well enough to the contrary, you'll be defeated by the person that took that position. But does that mean that they're right just because they were able to beat you in a debate? No. That's why these debates today are not worth our time. No, we can't say for a fact whether there is or is not a God. And that also depends on your definition of God.